bitter criticism from Chile's springtime, going to summer, but maybe you can see the flowers over there, the purple flowers. It's not a sky effect, the flowers are purple. And we are reading Cgtn. Let's be happy. First news from the top 5 from the highlights. Politics. China maps out 2025 economic plans, vows more proactive macro policies. There's a photograph. Photograph is about Xi Jinping at the center, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, Chinese President and Chairman of the Central something. The closely watched Central Economic Work Conference was held in Beijing from Wednesday to Thursday as Chinese leaders decided priorities for the economic work in 2025. Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, Chinese President and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, delivered an important speech at the annual conference. According to the meeting, despite the quote complex and severe situation of growing external pressures and increasing internal difficulties, China has ensured the overall stability and steady progress of the economy and the major goals and tasks for economic and social development in 2024 are expected to be accomplished. It stressed that China must adopt more proactive macro policies, expand domestic demand, and promote the integrated development of scientific and technological innovation and industrial innovation to do a good job in economic work in 2025. Efforts must also be made to secure the steady development of the real estate and stock markets, guard against and diffuse risks and external expectations, and simulate vitality so as to promote sustained economic recovery, said the meeting. From fiscal policy to monetary policy, according to the meeting, China will also adopt a more proactive fiscal policy, including an increase in the ratio of deficit and in the issuance of ultra-long special treasury bonds and local government special purpose bonds. China's government debt to GDP ratio, according to the Ministry of Finance, stood at 67.5% at the end of 2023, much lower than the average 118.2% among G20 members and 123.4% for G7 countries, estimated by the International Monetary Fund (IMF). China's fiscal deficit has long been below 3%, significantly lower than other major economies. With a low government leverage ratio, China's central budget has room for increased borrowing and deficit expansion, Minister of Finance Lan Fuan said in October. The Central Economic Work Conference said China will adopt a moderately loose monetary policy and lower the reserve requirement ratio and interest rates when necessary to ensure adequate liquidity. It marks the first prudent to moderately loose transition in the country's monetary stance since 2011. Since the beginning of 2024, the People's Bank of China, the central bank, has cut the reserve requirement ratio twice by 1 percentage point in total for financial institutions, releasing approximately 2 trillion yuan, about $274.8 billion in long-term liquidity. From domestic demand to opening up, the Central Economic Work Conference listed priorities for economic work in 2025 in 9 aspects, from stimulating consumption and developing new quality productive forces to preventing and addressing risks in key areas, consolidating poverty alleviation achievements and boosting green development. The meeting stressed the need to vigorously boost consumption, improve investment efficiency, and expand domestic demand on all fronts. China remains one of the largest markets in the world. From January to October this year, China's total retail sales of consumer goods approached 40 trillion yuan, while last year's total exceeded 47 trillion yuan, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. A national program aimed at promoting consumer goods trade-ins unveiled in March has demonstrated the untapped room of China's domestic demand. Over 30 million participants have been attracted to the program, contributing total sales of over 400 billion yuan. The two-day meeting also called for more efforts to further promote high-level opening up and secure the steady growth of foreign trade and foreign investment. Quote, China's development is open and inclusive, said Xi while meeting leaders of major international economic organizations, including the IMF, in Beijing on Tuesday, one day before the start of the annual conference. China will put in place new systems for a higher standard open economy, provide more opportunities for the development of other countries, and share more development benefits with the world, she told the leaders at the Great Hall of the People. Starting December 1st, China has granted zero tariff treatment for 100% of tariff lines to all its developed countries with which it has diplomatic relations. What will help more products from these countries enter the Chinese market, sharing opportunities and boosting development, said Liu Dalian, an official from China's General Administration of Customs. And there's another news about Ukraine. China, Russia call for political resolution on Ukraine crisis. But there's news are very interesting today about Gaza and about South Korea and Assad in Syria. I've lost the connection aquí. I lost connection, but Cgtn news today are great. If I only can read it, if I only download this, well, it's not happening. We will not know live updates. Assad granted asylum in Moscow as rebels take Damascus. So China is not taking part. China, Russia call for political resolution on Ukraine crisis. I'm going to read it. We have a photograph. Xi Jinping on the right, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee and Chinese, etc. China and Russia have called for deeper collaboration on development strategy and peace efforts on the Ukraine crisis. Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China CPC Central Committee and Chinese President, met with Dmitry Medvedev, chairman of the United Russia Party, in Beijing on Thursday. During the meeting, she highlighted the achievements of China-Russia relations over the past 75 years, emphasizing that the two countries have forged a new path of mutual respect, harmonious coexistence, and win-win cooperation as major neighbors. She expressed China's readiness to deepen alignment of development strategies with Russia, further explore cooperation potential, and bring tangible benefits to both nations and their peoples. She also called for closer collaboration between China and Russia within multilateral frameworks, including the United Nations, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. He underscored the importance of upholding the UN-centered international system, practicing genuine multilateralism, and promoting a fairer and more equitable international order. I guess China is only doing positive things, but its geopolitics is very tricky, so I guess even Chinese don't know where's the line between the US and Syria. But here we go. Noting the long-standing partnership between the CPC and the United Russia Party, she urged both parties to enhance coordination and cooperation to guide global governance in the right direction and foster greater consensus among political parties worldwide, particularly in global south countries, to drive global development toward a positive trajectory. On the Ukraine crisis, she reiterated China's stance, emphasizing three key principles: avoiding spillover effects, preventing escalation, and refraining from actions that further fuel the conflict. He reaffirmed China's commitment to facilitating de-escalation and creating conditions for a political resolution. Medvedev delivered a personal letter from Russian President Vladimir Putin to Xi, praising the robust relationship between the two countries. He pledged Russia's commitment to implementing the consensus reached by the two leaders and advancing strategic cooperation. He also emphasized the United Russia Party's commitment to deeper cooperation with the CPC. He condemned China's position on the Ukraine crisis, acknowledging the Friends of Peace group initiative proposed by China, Brazil, and other countries. He expressed Russia's willingness to actively support efforts for a political resolution to the Ukraine crisis. And that's it about Ukraine. Let's see if Syria is not loading. I'm not able to load with Intel internet, but I guess this is not an Intel problem. I guess this is no, there is, but this is a heavy page. Live updates: Assad granted asylum in Moscow as rebels take Damascus. I was watching some lives from Michael Hudson on neutrality studies, on Dialogue Works, and Richard Wolff too. Michael Hudson and Richard Wolff. It was very interesting, and they were talking about, they're saying Richard Wolff, he says, in the long term, future belongs to Russia and China, so this is not important. Who knows what's going to happen? Like, this is kind of just an allegory, understand? This lasts, who knows? But my fear is that China, and even Russia maybe, they are going to be sold out to the West, understand? They're going to be sold out. The West will control China economically. I don't know, who knows, economically and symbolically. Like, Chinese people may want to, who knows what's going to happen, you know. I hope the best for China and the global south. As even I'm being Italian. Anyway, summary from Cgtn: former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his family have arrived in Russian capital Moscow and have been granted asylum for humanitarian reasons. Local RAI news agency reported Sunday, citing source from the Kremlin. Armed opposition forces seized full control of Syrian capital Damascus on Sunday. Assad had been in power since 2000. Regional countries expressed support for the will and choice of the Syrian people and hoped for a swift restoration of unity and security in the country. There's a lot of things. Curfew in Damascus lifted, and as interim prime minister calls refugees to return home. There's just too many news. We are seeing a traffic at Damascus. Syria's military operations administration announced Wednesday the lifting of a curfew in Damascus and surrounding areas, urging residents to return to work as the country grapples with the aftermath of Bashar al-Assad ouster. The announcement coincided with interim Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir's call for refugees to return home. Al-Bashir, a former regional leader in northwestern Syria, was appointed Tuesday to head a transitional government until March 2025. His appointment follows a shift offensive by a militant alliance led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS), which captured Damascus within 12 days after launching its offensive from northern Syria on November 27. Assad has fled the country, ending 5 decades of his family's rule. The new leadership, dominated by the Islamist HTS, has sought to reassure religious minorities and promise that the rights of all religious and ethnic groups will be guaranteed. Meanwhile, HTS leader Abu Mohammed al-Jolani pledged justice for victims of Assad's administration, saying that officials in Assad's government involved in torture will not be pardoned. In the northeast, Kurdish fled forces announced a U.S. brokered ceasefire on Wednesday, with Turkish-backed militants in the strategic city of Manbij. Days of fierce clashes in the Arab-majority city erupted after the HTS-led forces ousted the Assad government on Sunday. The Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, a Kurdish-led coalition of US-backed militias, reported that 280 combatants were killed in the fighting and pledged to withdraw from the area as soon as possible. U.S. Central Command confirmed on Tuesday that its Chief General Mikhail Kurilla has visited U.S. bases in Syria and met with SDF partners. Earlier this month, Turkish-backed forces captured the strategic northern enclave of Tal Rifat from Kurdish forces, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based war monitor. Ankara views the Syrian Kurdish People's Protection Units, IPG, the dominant force within the SDF, as an extension of the Kurdish Workers' Party, PKK, which is designated a terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union. But I guess this is unfair, you know, they are just workers, they are just Kurdish. Anyway, Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei downplayed the impact of Assad's ouster on Tehran's regional influence, diminishing the notion that the weakening of Syria's role in the resistance against Israel will diminish Iran's power. Khamenei accused the United States, Israel, and an unnamed neighboring country of orchestrating Assad's downfall. Qatar announced plans to reopen its embassy in Damascus, citing historical ties and a commitment to support Syria's reconstruction. The decision aligns with Qatar's efforts to channel humanitarian aid to the Syrian population through an established air bridge. Oh, this explains why Al Jazeera is so happy about this success, this event. In July 2011, after the outbreak of the anti-government protests in Syria, Qatar recalled its ambassador to Syria and closed its embassy. The humanitarian situation remains dire, according to the United Nations. Hospitals are overwhelmed, food shortages persist, and displaced populations face widespread trauma. The price of bread in cities like Idlib and Aleppo has surged by 900%, and over 1 million people have been displaced since the start of the offensive superheaded by HTS on December 27. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, reported numerous minefields obstructing movement and aid delivery, with at least 52 identified in the past 10 days. Well, there's a news about the Egyptian foreign minister. Blinken discussed recent developments in Syria. It's interesting because Egypt, as Rui Costa Pimenta from PCO says, is a puppet state. It's controlled by the West. There's an aerial photograph similar to the previous. The aerial view shows traffic at Damascus Central Umayyad Square at sunset. One day when the traffic was running, actually. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati received a call from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken Tuesday night on the recent developments in Syria. The Egyptian foreign minister said in a statement on Wednesday. The two sides agreed on the importance of adopting a comprehensive political process that focuses on not excluding any Syrian national components or parties so as to pave the road for restoring stability in Syria. Abdelatai reaffirmed Egypt's support for Syria's sovereignty, unity, and land safety, according to the statement. He emphasized Egypt's rejection to Israel seizing control of the demilitarized buffer zone in the Golan Heights and other neighboring positions, terming it as an occupation of the Syrian territories and a blatant violation of the international law. He urged the international community to take its responsibilities to stop any assault on Syria. For its part, Blinken emphasized the historic opportunity for the Syrian people to build a better future and reiterated the need for all actors in Syria to respect human rights, protect religious and ethnic minorities, and uphold international humanitarian law. According to a statement by the U.S. State Department, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has resigned and arrived in Russia for asylum as his government collapsed on Tuesday following a sweeping offensive by the Syrian militant groups. And that's it. Bye. the live updates about the Syrian situation, and there's still something from South Korea. Very interesting geopolitical day at Cgtn. Politics. South Korea's ruling party leaders call for supporting President Yoon's impeachment, Yoon impeachments as party stance. It's like me. I'm not the South Korean president. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol delivers an address at the presidential office in Seoul, December 12. South Korea's ruling party leader Thursday called for supporting impeachment against President Yoon Suk Yeol as its party stance, terming it as the only solution to the chaos caused by Yoon's martial law declaration. The remarks by Han Dong-yeon, chief of Yoon's own People Power Party, came after the president delivered a televised address to the nation in which he justified his hugely controversial martial law decision. Speaking to reporters, Han confirmed Yoon's unwillingness to resign early and said the president should immediately be excluded from state administration, including the right to command the military. He said those involved in the unconstitutional and illegal declaration of martial law, including Yoon, should be strongly punished. Han called on his party's lawmakers to vote on Yoon's impeachment based on their own conviction. Quote, "We must stop further confusion. There is only one effective method now," he said. In the next impeachment motion vote, our party's lawmakers should enter the assembly hall and take part in the vote based on their own conviction and conscience. The People Power Party had initially refused to back impeachment, hoping Yoon will resign from office instead. But its leadership said attempts to persuade Yoon had made no progress. The opposition party submitted a motion to impeach Yoon last week, but it was scrapped last Sunday as People Power Party lawmakers boycotted it. The opposition camp planned to submit an impeachment motion again later in the day, and put it up for a vote Saturday. Sources: Xinhua News Agency. Well, and that was all. There's another news from Gaza. Gaza peace hopes as UN General Assembly demands unconditional truce. What can I say is that right here in Chile is much peaceful than many other places. You can come here, you will not starve, which is a great thing, isn't it? You will not starve.